morning, students. I would like to welcome all of you in the digital class session of biology. Now today I am going to continue with that same chapter which I had already discussed in your previous classes, that is health and diseases. So today also I am going to continue with this chapter. So now you need to make sure that you are paying attention in class in order to get the concepts absolutely clear. So let's proceed with today's discussion. So today's first topic of discussion will be concept based on malaria. So basically today I am going to teach you the parasite that cause different human diseases. So it's just like this, that parasite causing different human diseases. So the first one is malaria. The name malaria has been derived from the Italian term malaria, meaning bad air. Laveran discovered that malaria is caused by protozoan parasite Plasmodium. He got Nobel Prize in 1907. Sir Ronald Ross, a doctor of Indian Army, established that malarial parasite is transmitted by the bite of a female Anopheles mosquito. In 1902, he got Nobel Prize for his discovery. So now we need to know about the details about malaria, like causal agent, or you can say it causative organism. Several species of protozoan parasite called Plasmodium are the causative organism, or you can say it causal agents of several types of malaria. Like benign or tertian malaria has been caused by Plasmodium vivax. Malignant terrine malaria has been caused by Plasmodium falciparum. Mild terrine malaria has been caused by Plasmodium ovale. Quarantine malaria has been caused by Plasmodium malariae. Okay. So now let's discuss about the host of malarial parasite. Now definitive host, now female Anopheles mosquito where sexual phase of parasite occurs. It is also called the primary host. An intermediate host, man where a sexual phase of parasite occurs, that is called the secondary host. So now let's concentrate on the mode of infection. When a female Anopheles mosquito bites an infected and diseased person, the gametocyte stage of parasite gets the entry into the mosquito. So the sexual phase of the parasite is completed in the body of a mosquito, and the sporozoites, or you can pronounce it as sporozoites. So sporozoites will be the perfect word for it. So the sporozoites have been produced. The sporozoites reside in the salivary glands of the mosquito. When the infected female bites a healthy man, again the sporozoites may be transmitted into a new host. So thus the disease may spread in the population following this mode of infection pattern. Okay. So there are certain clinical manifestation of malaria. The clinical manifestation of malaria, like the first one is recurring appearance of fever, which is a very prominent manifestation. Okay, at regular interval, that is usually within 24 to 72 hours, recurrence of attack passes through three phases, namely cold stage, hot stage and sweating stage. So cold stage, what is happening at this cold stage? At this stage, the infected person feels severe cold. Shivering occurs with rising of temperature in the body. It lasts from 15 minutes to 1 hour. Okay. Hot stage. Cold stage has been followed by hot stage when body temperature may rise to 106 degree Fahrenheit. The patient suffers from severe headache, pain in the body and limbs. Feeling of weakness, feeling of headache and vomiting tendency are other associated symptoms at this stage. Now this stage basically lasts for 2 to 6 hours. Then comes your sweating stage. At this stage, sweating occurs in the patient and fever comes down. It lasts for about 2 to 3 hours. All the symptomatic expressions of the malarial patient together are being termed as febrile paroxysm, or you can pronounce it as febrile paroxysm. Okay, so the word is paroxysm. Okay, then comes your anemia. Now because of recurring attack to the RBC and subsequent destruction of the blood cells, malarial patient suffers from severe anemia. Splenomegaly. During malarial infection, the size of the spleen is enlarged and this only is being termed as splenomegaly. Enlargement of liver, it is another associated symptom of this disease. In malignant malaria, the brain gets infected and capillaries may be clogged by the infected RBC. So this may lead to cessation of blood supply to the brain, and because of this it is also called cerebral malaria. Okay. Obviously, you need to have a control on this malaria. So how people are going to take the precaution measures? So people are trying to control malaria by all sorts of efforts. Even at government levels, different health service schemes have been taken to control the incidence and spread of malaria. These efforts are focused on two aspects: to prevent the incidence of malarial infection, and second one is control of the vector species by preventing their population growth. So prevention of incidence of malarial infection. This basically refers to prevention of malarial infection in man through public awareness and cautious treatment of the infected man. Okay. So what are the prophylactic measures? By use of mosquito nets during sleep at night. By this measure, mosquito has been prevented from biting a man and infection may not reach the individual. By using mosquito repellents, which has been very common, that is, some chemicals are available in the market such as All Out, Odomos, mosquito coil, etc., which may be used in the rooms of human habitation. People may get rid of mosquito biting and incidence of malarial infection may be minimized. Then treatment of malarial infected man. Whenever a person is observed to be infected by malaria, he must be treated under strict medical care. To prevent the spread of the disease in the surrounding area, the infected person must be kept away from the mosquito bite by any means. It is better for the person to be hospitalized immediately for proper treatment. Healthy person may also be rescued from malarial infection by using drug prophylaxis as per the advice of the medical practitioner, or means the medical doctor, medical professional. Chloroquine or Proguanil is usually taken at specific dose at regular interval. For chloroquine-resistant malaria, mefloquine or doxycycline, or you can pronounce this word as doxycycline, which has been used for this purpose. So mefloquine and doxycycline, okay, is used for this purpose. The dose and the time interval must be determined, okay, with the advice from the medical professional or medical practitioner. Pregnant women and children are cautiously given anti-malarial drugs. Control of vectors, another prevention measure. Control of the population growth or minimizing the growth of the Anopheles mosquito may control the incidence and spread of malaria in the population. A close study on the breeding of mosquitoes and clear knowledge of the biology of Anopheles causing malaria may help in the prevention of the spread of malaria. Several effective measures to control mosquito population are like reduction of the breeding ground, cultivation of larvae eating fishes in drains and small ditches, then obviously uses of insecticides like DDT, ethyl parathione, malathion, okay, dialdrin, then use of oil and insecticides in water bodies. Okay, so these are the certain measures by which this control of the population growth of the Anopheles mosquitoes can be controlled. Okay. Now let's move into the next topic, which deals with the concept of ascariasis. Ascariasis is a parasitic disease in man when the infected person suffers from abdominal disorders with other associated symptoms. The infected person also suffers from severe malnutrition. Ascariasis is very common in the third world countries like India, Bangladesh, Korea, Philippines, and also in China and Pacific Islands. In the whole world, about 644 million individuals are affected by ascariasis, and among them, about 488 million people are afraid from 488 million people are from Asian countries. Usually, people inhabiting the region having poor sanitation suffer from this disease. The disease is caused by the attack of a nematode parasite in man, commonly known as roundworm. So what is the causative agent in ascariasis? Ascariasis is caused by the roundworm Ascaris lumbricoides. Roundworm resides in the small intestine of man as parasite. In the intestine of man, about 500 to 5,000 roundworms may live. During the early phase of life cycle, the parasite may travel through the organs of the body like liver, heart and lungs. This parasite uses only the single host, that is man. From contaminated food materials, the parasite may get entry into the body of the host. So what are the clinical symptoms of ascariasis? Some clinical symptoms, those become prominent in man during infection by Ascaris lumbricoides are like this: abdominal pain, vomiting tendency, loss of appetite, dysentery and liberation of worms with fecal material. Sometimes nematodes also come out through mouth and nose. Salivation during sleep, crushing of teeth at sleep and act of speaking during sleep, intestinal obstruction, peritonitis and appendicitis. Okay. Now peritonitis means inflammation of the membrane lining the abdominal wall and covering the abdominal organs. Okay. So it's usually infectious and often life-threatening. And another symptom is regurgitation of water. The word regurgitation means the action of bringing swallowed food up again to the mouth. Okay, it's like the action of swallowing. Okay, it's now in terms of water, that means swallowing of water. Okay, so now let's focus on the mode of infection. Now primary source of infection is contaminated food and drink. However, the ways through which Ascaris infection may occur are like entry of rhabdiform larva through vegetables, ingestion of the eggs of Ascaris with water, taking of food by untidy hands, inhalation of contaminated air. And the name of the larva which enters the body through vegetables, as I told you, it's rhabdiform larva. Okay. So control, how you are going to control this? The treatment of the infected person, maintenance of proper sanitation and practice of personal hygiene may rescue the man from ascariasis. So what is the treatment? A person found to be infected with Ascaris must be treated without delay as per medical advice. There are drugs called nematicides which are given to the patient to destroy the nematodes. Okay. Maintenance of proper sanitation, which is very important. This may be achieved by water supply of the locality must be protected from contamination by fecal material. Water used for washing of utensils as well as for bathing should be devoid of contamination. So water which is used for washing purpose and as also for bathing purpose should be devoid of contamination. Okay, surroundings of the dwelling places should be absolutely cleaned, and practice of personal hygiene. Always well cooked food should be taken, filtered water should be intaken, washing of hands with soap before food should be done. Okay, so before you take the food, you need to wash your hands properly. So next topic of discussion will be pneumonia. Now pneumonia is a serious disease of lungs. Okay, the pathogen gram-positive bacteria Diplococcus pneumoniae is the causal agent. Okay, now pneumonia are of two types. One is bronchopneumonia for young children. Second one is lobar pneumonia for 10 to 50 years of age. Okay, now what is the incubation period? 1 to 3 days. So now let's what is the mode of transmission? The disease spread by the sputum of the patient. Symptoms, what are the different symptoms? Like serious changes of lungs manifested by the mucus or fluid accumulation in alveoli and bronchiole, breathing difficulty, chest pain, fever, abdominal distension, headache and sudden chill, rapid breathing, bluish and greyish color of lips and fingernails due to deficiency of oxygen in the body, death if untreated. So how it can be diagnosed? Chest X-ray, complete blood count test, CT scan of chest, bronchoscopy and pleural fluid culture. Control, use of antibiotics like erythromycin, tetracycline and azithromycin can be used to control this. Now, bronchoscopy is a procedure that allows a doctor to examine the inside of the lungs, including the bronchi, which are the main pathway into the lungs. Okay. So, what are the preventive measures? Practicing good hygiene and health habits help prevent pneumonia. Thorough and frequent hand cleaning, coughing or sneezing into an elbow or sleeve instead of hands, avoiding interaction with those who are sick, receiving proper nutrition and getting adequate rest are all things you and your children can do to ward off the bacteria and viruses that can cause pneumonia. Avoid tobacco smoke and other pollutants help prevent pneumonia. Now the next disease is amoebiasis, or you can pronounce it as amoebiasis. Okay, so it is a disease which has been caused by protozoan Entamoeba histolytica, which is very common in India. This parasite lives in the large intestine of man. Infection occurs by ingesting cyst contaminated food and water. Okay, now Lamble first discovered the parasite and Loschke proved its pathogenic nature. Okay, so the pathogen responsible for this is monogenetic protozoan. The name is Entamoeba histolytica. Okay, incubation period is 5 to several months. What is the mode of transmission? Transmission of Entamoeba histolytica from man to man is effected through incested stage, and infection occurs through the ingestion of this cyst. Okay, so obviously the most important is the effect is being passed through incested stage. Okay, incested stage. The fecal contamination of drinking water, vegetables, food are the primary causes. Uncooked vegetables, fruits and impure water are the secondary causes of infection. Houseflies may convey the infection while passing from feces to unprotected foodstuff. The cysts of Entamoeba histolytica have been found in the droppings of cockroaches, which also serve as a source of infection. So what are the symptoms? Abdominal pain with loose motion, diarrhea alternating with constipation, passing of blood and mucus with dirty stool, feces having cyst. Okay, diagnosis, how it can be diagnosed? Microscopical examination of stool finds cysts of Entamoeba histolytica, serum antibodies test, colonoscopy, etc. Control measures like use of drugs like emetine, tinidazole. Now it's the perfect pronunciation will be tinidazole. Okay. Now next one is metronidazole. Okay, so basically these three drugs which are commonly used: emetine, tinidazole and metronidazole, etc. No immunization is being done. So what are the preventive measures? Sanitary disposal of human excreta and safe drinking water. These are the two most important preventive measures that should be taken for this amoebiasis. Okay, so now let's focus on filariasis. Now filariasis is a disease in man caused by a type of thread-like worm called filaria. The name is Wuchereria bancrofti. So Wuchereria bancrofti is the scientific name. Okay, in this infection the initial disease symptom is lymphangitis with manifestation of high fever, and subsequently swelling of feet, hand, scrotum, mammary gland may occur, resulting in elephantitis. Now lymphangitis is an infection of the lymph vessel. Okay, it is a complication of some bacterial infection, or it can be simply described as an inflammation of the lymphatic system, which is a major component of the immune system. Okay, and elephantitis is also known as lymphatic filariasis, is a very rare condition that spread by mosquitoes. Filariasis is an immense problem throughout the world, and about 250 million people are infected with filariasis. In tropical and subtropical countries, about 1 billion are at risk of infection by Wuchereria bancrofti. Though the disease is caused by the nematode parasite, the infection may get spread by this species of mosquito of the genus Culex. Okay, so Filariasis in India is caused mainly by the species of nematodes, namely Wucheria bancrofti. The adult worms live in the lymphatics and they produce the larvae called microfilariae, which invade the bloodstream. The nematode species use two hosts to complete its life cycle, and these are man and mosquito. Man is the definitive host in which the adult forms of the parasite harbor, and mosquito female is the intermediate host as it carries the larval forms of the organism. So, what is the mode of transmission? In the body of the infected person, microfilariae appears in the peripheral blood during night, that is peak hour 10 pm to 2 pm. However, there are two forms of Wucheria bancrofti, periodic and subperiodic. The periodic form of the worm shows that their microfilariae matures more during night. In Asia, the periodic, that is the nocturnal forms, are more prevalent. The subperiodic forms show minor fluctuation, and the microfilariae are found in the blood for whole 24 hours, showing a higher count during the afternoon and the evening. The female of Culex quinquefasciatus, okay, so the entire name is Culex quinquefasciatus, during sucking of blood at night get microfilariae which develops inside the body of the mosquito. The third stage larva after the development resides in the proboscis of the female mosquito. Such mosquito, when bites a healthy man, the larva of Wucheria bancrofti may enter the body of a man to develop fresh infection. So what are the clinical manifestation of filariasis? Following disorders may be observed, like lymphangitis accompanied by high fever like 103 degree to 104 degree Fahrenheit, chill and rigor. Main affected area is the lymphatics of testes and epididymis. Lymphangitis at axilla and also at groin. Lymphangiovarix, that is dilation of lymphatics. Dilated lymphatics may rupture, causing hydroxyl lymph scrotum and lymphuria. Okay, so basically all are being related to the lymphatic system. Okay, then hyperplasia of connective tissue and skin resulting lymphoedematous condition. In extreme case, elephantitis results secondary infection by bacteria causing septic lymphangitis. Okay, so now let's study about the vectors of filaria transmission through filaria. Though filaria is transmitted chiefly by Culex quinquefasciatus, some other species of mosquito may also have been reported to be involved in transmitting the disease. So now let's focus on control. So by proper treatment of the diseased persons, preventing vector biting and controlling the population of vector species, filariasis may be controlled in the population. So like the first one is prevention of the incidence of filarial infection. Prophylactic measures like use of mosquito net to keep the individual away from the mosquito bite. Use of mosquito repellent to prevent biting. Some repellents are like Odomos, All Out, mosquito coil, etc. Treatment of the infected person. The infected person must be kept away from the mosquito bite. The treatment of the infected person should be done without delay as per advice of the medical practitioner. WHO recommends, WHO means World Health Organization, recommends administration of drug diethyl carbamazine, okay, carbamazine, okay, diethyl carbamazine in the population en masse in the infected area. Okay, next is control of the vector population. A proper knowledge on the breeding and behavior of the vector species may help to control them easily. So Culex quinquefasciatus takes shelter in cowsheds in dark corner of the dwelling houses, masonry tank, domestic collection of water, catch basins, sewage farms and other small collection of water. Therefore, some measures to control the population growth of this mosquito or other vector species, like reduction of breeding grounds. Okay, accumulation of water in the domestic area should not be allowed. Houses and surroundings should be kept absolutely clean. Chemical control, larviciding effect may come from spraying kerosene or light diesel oil, okay, in the stagnant water bodies, and the population of the vector species may be brought to depletion. Adulticide like pyrethrum may be spread indoor for killing the mosquitoes. Larvicide phentheon spraying in water bodies may give an effective block to rise in vector population. Cultivating larvivorous fishes to destroy the larva in small ditches and waterlogged zone. Cultivation of this larvivorous fishes as Gambusia, guppy and panchax may be practiced. So now let's focus into the next disease, that is typhoid. Typhoid is an acute and most common communicable disease in our country. What is the pathogen that is responsible for typhoid? Or you can say, what is the pathogen that is acting as a causal organism of typhoid? That is none other than bacteria Salmonella typhi. The disease occurs throughout the year, but the frequency is higher during rainy season. Incubation period is 10 to 15 days. Transmission, the disease is transmitted by the following way, like spreads chiefly by ingestion of contaminated food, water, milk, unwashed raw vegetables. The typhoid bacteria excreted in the stool and urine of patient. Defecation and urination in the open leads to spread of infection through soil, water, food and flies. Spreading also takes place through direct contact. What are the symptoms? It's characterized by continuous fever which increases day by day. Ladder-like temperature rises more in the afternoon than in the morning. Fever is accompanied with headache and body ache. Constipation occurs. Sometimes a rash develops on the trunk at the end of the first week. In untreated cases, patient may develop hemorrhage from the ulceration in small intestine. So how it can be diagnosed? By Widal test. Okay. So what are the prevention and control measures that should be taken? The patient being a source of infection should be isolated and his urine and stool are to be collected in a closed container and disinfected before disposal by flushing or burning. Patient's personal clothing, bedclothes, etc. should be disinfected by boiling. Attendants of the patient should disinfect their hands. Proper community sanitation, safe water supply and food sanitation should be ensured. Breeding of the flies should be prevented by the use of insecticides and wire mesh doors and window doors. Immunization with tab vaccine provides protection against typhoid for 3 years. Antibiotics like chloramphenicol and ampicillin or ampicillin, sometimes it's been termed as ampicillin, but the most common one is ampicillin, etc. are being used for cure of this disease. So now let's move into the next topic, which deals with the concept of common cold or rhinitis. Common cold is a viral disease, easily affects the person who has no immunity power. Pathogen which are responsible for this is the rhinovirus. The virus attacks the nose and the respiratory passage but not the lungs. Bacteria like Dialister pneumocystis also is one of the cause of common cold. But right now another two viruses like coronavirus and RSV and para-influenza. Okay. Now, RSV virus stands for respiratory syncytial virus. Okay, syncytial virus or syncytial virus, but the name is respiratory syncytial virus or syncytial virus, but the respiratory has to be there. So that is the entire name. Now let's focus on into the mode of transmission. Spread through droplets from talking and sneezing. It is also spread from one infected person to other through handshake, use of common articles like pens, cups, books, etc. What is the incubation period? 3 to 7 days. What are the symptoms? The common cold has been characterized by nasal congestion, sneezing, nasal discharge, sore throat, headache, sometimes slight fever, fatigue and tiredness. So how it can be diagnosed? Blood test, that is WBC count, throat swab test, sputum culture, etc. How it can be controlled? Cured automatically within 3 to 7 days. Histamine drugs and anti-inflammatory drugs are often used. Okay. So these are the two drugs which are used, antihistamine and anti-inflammatory. What are the preventive measures? Use of germicidal breathing mask, washing of hands with soap and warm water. Personal hygiene should be improved. Nutritional supplements like vitamin A and C and zinc mineral. Stress management to improve immune system. Okay. Ringworm. Ringworm or dermatophytosis is a type of fungal disease. It mostly affects person with lack of personal hygiene. Pathogen responsible for this is fungus tinea. Now dermatophytes have been classified into three genera, okay? Trichophyton, Microsporium and Epidermophyton. Trichophyton, it infects skin, nails and hair, like Trichophyton rubrum is the common species infecting man. Microsporium, it infects skin and hair. Microsporium cavis is the common species of Microsporium. And Epidermophyton, it infects the skin and nails. Epidermophyton flocosum is the common species. Clinically, ringworm has also been classified according to the affected parts, like Tinea pedis, that is athlete foot, is the ringworm of foot. Tinea capitis, ringworm of scalp. Tinea cruris, ringworm of groin and perineum. Okay, so it's ringworm of groin or perineum, which has been classified, or you can say that it falls under Tinea cruris. And Tinea barbae, which affects beard area of the face and neck. Okay, so what are the symptoms? Like itching, red, raised, scaly patches on the skin that may blister and ooze. Red patches are often much redder around the outside, with normal skin tone in the center, looking like a ring. And bald patches in hair. So how it can be diagnosed? Skin biopsy, skin culture, then potassium hydroxide exam. So the KOH test stands for Candida albicans, also known as potassium hydroxide preparation, which I also told you. In short form, it has also been termed as KOH prep. Okay, it's a quick, inexpensive fungal test to differentiate the dermatophytes and Candida albicans symptoms from the other skin disorders. Okay. Then what are the control measures? Use of drugs like ketoconazole, then clotrimazole, etc. Preventive measures like clean and dry skin and feet, shampoo regularly after haircuts, avoid sharing personal care, avoid touching pets with bald spot. Okay. So now let's move into a very important topic which deals with the concept of cancer. Cell division is a gene controlled process. It has been discovered that an enzyme telomerase controls cell division. Generally, the enzyme telomerase in active condition causes cells to divide, and in its inactivity stops division. In a multicellular organism, normal cell division causes growth, development of various organs and repair of wounds. However, in some cases, it was observed that some cells start dividing in an uncontrolled manner, which ultimately leads to cancer. Therefore, uncontrolled increase in the number of cells without differentiation is known as cancer. These cells which divide rapidly without any control are known as neoplastic cells. Unwanted organ growth due to division of neoplastic cell is known as neoplastic growth or tumor. Tumor may be benign or malignant if division of neoplastic cell is limited at the site of origin, and tumor produced at such is called benign tumor. On the other hand, if neoplastic cells are migrated from their site of origin and produce secondary tumor at sites other than origin, it is termed as malignant tumor. Okay. So in our body, normal cell due to genetic defect is converted into cancer cell. The main criteria of this cell is to divide vigorously beyond control. However, when a normal body cell is converted into a cancer cell, massive changes in its behavioral and morphological characteristics are being observed. So what are the causes of cancer? A normal healthy cell bears proto-oncogene in its gene complement for normal activities like cell division and growth. This proto-oncogene, when mutated to oncogene, causes cancer. A few kinds of DNA viruses, RNA viruses, carcinogenic chemicals like nicotine, benzopyrene, etc., physical agents like X-ray, gamma ray, etc. are believed to be responsible for causing cancer. Cancer is a group of disease that can cause almost any sign or symptom. The signs and symptoms will depend on where the cancer is and how big it is and how much it affects the organ or tissues. If a cancer has spread, signs or symptoms may appear in the different parts of the body. So if the cancer has spread, the medical term is metastasized. Okay, metastasized. As a cancer grows, it can begin to push on nearby organs, blood vessels and nerves. This pressure causes some of the signs and symptoms of cancer. If the cancer is in a critical area such as certain parts of the brain, even the smallest tumor can cause symptoms. Okay, but sometimes cancer starts in places where it will not cause any signs or symptoms until it has grown quite large. Cancer of the pancreas, for example, usually do not cause symptoms until they grow large enough to press on nearby nerves or organs. Okay, other may grow around the bile duct and block the flow of bile. This causes the eyes and skin to look yellow. By the time a pancreatic cancer causes signs or symptoms like this, it is usually in an advanced stage. This means it has grown and spread beyond the place it started, the pancreas. So, what are the characteristic features of malignant cells or cancer cell? Cancer cells are able to survive and divide for an indefinite period, while normal cells are able to divide approximately for 50 times. In most of the cases, cancer cells become round shaped. Normal cells, when come in contact with one another, generally stop growth and stop their process of division. Cancer cells, even after their contact, continue to grow and divide. This is called loss of contact or inhibition. Apoptosis is the process of cell death according to definite plan. This is not found in cancer cell. Generally, gradual destruction of DNA is the only cause of cell death. But DNAs of malignant cells are not affected by various chemical substances and radioactive radiation. That is why apoptosis is not observed in cancer cell. Malignant cell has lost the power of differentiation. Like normal cell, malignant cells are not dependent on various growth promoting factors for growth. Invasiveness is the most common characteristics of malignant cell. Reduced cellular adhesion is observed in malignant cell. As a result, these cells fail to adhere to one another. Proto-oncogene of normal cell is converted into oncogene in cancer cell. In some cases, tumor suppressor gene of normal cell on mutation may produce cancer cell. Structural deformities of chromosome are also observed in cancer cell. Information received from neighboring cell cannot produce any response in cancer cell. Existence of cancer cell is noticed anywhere in the body because cancer cell breaks off from their source and spread throughout the body by blood and lymph circulation. This is only termed as metastasis. Generally, cancer cell varies abnormal number of chromosome. In most of the cases, aneuploid condition has been observed. These cells may influence the neighboring normal cell and convert them into cancer cell. So what are the general symptoms of cancer? Unexplained weight loss. Most people with cancer will lose weight at some point. When you lose weight for no reason, or you can say when you lose weight for no known reason, it is called an unexplained weight loss. An unexplained weight loss of 10 pounds or more may be the first sign of cancer. This happens most often with cancer of the pancreas, stomach, esophagus or lung. Fever is also been very common with cancer, but it more often happens when after cancer has spread from where it has started. Almost all patients with cancer will have fever at some time, especially if the cancer or its treatment affects the immune system. Less often, fever may be an early sign of cancer, such as blood cancer like leukemia or lymphoma. Fatigue is extreme tiredness that does not get better with rest. It may be an important symptom as cancer grows. It may happen early, though in some cancers like leukemia. Some colon or stomach can cause blood loss. That's not obvious. So this is another way cancer can cause fatigue. Okay. Pain may be early symptom with some cancers like bone cancers or testicular cancer. A headache that does not go away or get better with treatment may be a symptom of brain tumor. Back pain can be a symptom of cancer of the colon, rectum or ovary. Most often pain due to cancer means it has already spread or metastasized from where it started. So when pain is occurring or it's been told that, or it's been advised, and when pain is happening very much often due to cancer means it has already spread. The medical term is metastasized from where it has started. Skin changes along with cancer of the skin. Some other cancers can cause skin changes that can be seen. These signs and symptoms include darker looking skin, that is hyperpigmentation, yellowish skin and eyes, jaundice, reddened skin, erythema, itching, excessive hair growth. What are the signs and symptoms of certain cancer? Along with general symptoms, you should watch for certain common signs and symptoms that could suggest cancer. Again, there may be other causes for each of these, but it's important to see a doctor about them as soon as possible. Change in bowel habits or bladder function, long-term constipation, diarrhea, or a change in the size of the stool may be a sign of colon cancer. Pain when passing urine, blood in the urine, or a change in bladder function could be related to a bladder or prostate cancer. Report any changes in bladder or bowel function to a doctor. Sores that do not heal. Skin cancer may bleed and look like sores that don't heal. A long-lasting sore in the mouth could be an oral cancer. This should be dealt with right away, especially in people who smoke, chew tobacco, or often drink alcohol. Sores on the penis or vagina may either be a sign or infection or an early cancer and should be seen by a healthy professional. White patches inside the mouth and white spots on the tongue. White patches inside the mouth and white spots on the tongue may be a leukoplakia. Leukoplakia is a precancerous area that is caused by frequent irritation. It is often caused by smoking or other tobacco use. Unusual bleeding or discharge. Unusual bleeding can happen in early or advanced cancer. Coughing up blood in the sputum may be a sign of lung cancer. Blood in the stool could be a sign of colon or rectal cancer. Cancer of the cervix or the endometrium can cause abnormal vaginal bleeding. Thickening or lump in the breast or other parts of the body. Many cancers can be felt through the skin. These cancers occurs mostly in the breast, testicle, lymph nodes, and the soft tissues of the body. A lump or thickening may be an early or late sign of cancer and should be reported to a doctor, especially if you have found it or notice it has grown in size. Indigestion or troubling swallowing. Indigestion or swallowing problem that don't go away may be a cancer of the esophagus, stomach, or pharynx, but like most symptoms in this list, they are most often caused by something other than cancer. Recent changes in a wart or mole or any new skin change. Any wart, mole, or freckle that change color, size, or shape or loses its sharp border around should be seen by a doctor right away. Any other skin changes should be reported. Nagging cough or hoarseness. A cough that does not go away may be a sign of lung cancer. Hoarseness can be a sign of cancer. Hoarseness can be a sign of cancer of the voice box, that is larynx or thyroid gland. So what are the mode of transmission? The point generally which tells you or gives you the information about how a cancer is spreading, that has only been termed as your mode of transmission. So what are the modes? Like primary and secondary cancer, how was cancer spread? Local spread through the blood circulation, through the lymphatic system. Why is cancer spreading and where they are spreading, in which region they are spreading, and micrometastasis. So primary and secondary cancer, the main reason cancer can be difficult to cure is that it can spread to different parts of the body from where it started. The cancer that grows where it first started in the body, it's called the primary cancer. And the place a cancer spread to and then starts growing, it is called secondary cancer or metastasis. cancer that has spread to another part of the body is called metastatic cancer. Way of cancer spread: in order to spread, some cells from the primary cancer must break away, travel to another part of the body and start growing there. Cancer cells do not stick together as well as normal cells do. So they may also produce substance that stimulate them to move. But how do cancer cells travel through the body? There are three main ways. One is local spread through the blood circulation and through the lymphatic system. Local spread: the cancer grows directly into nearby body tissues through blood circulation. In order to spread the cancer cell must first become detached from the primary cancer. It must then move through the wall of a blood vessel to get into the bloodstream. When it is in the bloodstream, it is swept along by the circulating blood until it gets stuck somewhere, usually in a very small blood vessel called a capillary. Then it must move back through the wall of the capillary and into the tissue of the organ close by. There it must start to multiply to grow a new tumor. So it's a complicated journey. So most cancer cells do not survive. Probably out of many thousand of cancer cells that reach the blood circulation, only one will survive to form a secondary cancer or metastasis. Now some cancer cells are probably killed off by the white blood cells in our immune system. Other cancer cells may die because they are battered around by the fast flowing blood. Cancer cells in the circulation may try to stick to platelets to form clumps to give themselves some protection. This may also help them to be filtered out in the next capillary network. They can then move into the tissue to start a secondary tumor. So through the lymphatic system, in this way a cancer spread through the lymphatic system is very similar to the way it spread through the bloodstream. The cancer cell must become detached from the primary tumor. Then only it will travel in the circulating lymph fluid until it gets stuck in the small channels inside a lymph node. There it begins to grow into a secondary cancer. So how it can be diagnosed? The diagnosis of cancer is be done by biopsy, pap test, X-ray, CT scan, MRI, etc. Treatment: the treatment of cancer are chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, etc. So for today it is this much. If you have any problem or doubts or queries regarding this chapter or any other chapter which is included in your syllabus, please feel free to communicate with me. If you have any query regarding this subject, I mean if you have any problem in any portion of the subject or any portion like project or practical or any chapters that are being taught till now, if you have any query or problem, then please do contact me in this given mail ID which has been provided at the end of the presentation. But before that, make sure that you go through the presentation properly, follow all the instructions that are given in the presentation properly. But still, if your problem continues, then obviously you feel free to communicate with me. So thank you and have a good day.